Hannah Vaughan-Jones in for Hala Garani. Tonight, he said he'd do it, and he did. Donald Trump is taking a victory lap as U.S. growth hits its highest point in years. But in the midst of good news, a cloud. Now, Trump's former attorney says the president knew in advance about a highly controversial 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. And a total eclipse of the moon. This hour, a rare celestial event is happening. We'll tell you where in the world you can catch a glimpse. So, an economic turnaround of historic proportions. The words of Donald Trump as he faced the White House Rose Garden today, on a day he could indeed be forgiven for smelling the roses. Like that garden, the economy feels like it's in bloom, with a growth spurt of more than 4% over the last 3 months. And that's something Mr. Trump suggests would not smell half as sweet by any other president.
As the trade deals come in one by one, we're going to go a lot higher than these numbers, and these are great.
But alas, every rose has its thorn, and right now, the one in Mr. Trump's side, it seems to be his former lawyer, Michael Cohen. The president is disputing Cohen's reported claim that he knew and approved of the 2016 Trump Tower meeting with the Russians before it happened. After all, the president has long denied leading anyone up or indeed down the garden path. Now, whatever rough winds may or may not be about to shake the presidential landscape, we have a diamond in the rough in the form of our very own Jeremy Diamond, who is live in Washington for us now. Jeremy, good to see you. So let's talk about the economy first. Credit where credit is due. This has been a good news day for Donald Trump. For more on the significance of that now, let's speak to Stephen Moore, CNN senior economics analyst and a former advisor to Mr. Trump himself. Stephen, great to see you, as always. Donald Trump very keen to say earlier that he's delivered not just on the economic results for America, but he's done what he's made America proud again. He's made America great again, even going as far as to say that the United States is now the envy of the whole world. I mean, we've got to give him credit. But has he overstated his own role in the results out today?
Well, you know, that line of U.S. being the economically the envy of the world, actually Donald Trump borrowed that from the front page of the Wall Street Journal just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, you talked before to us, Stephen, about zero tariffs being the ultimate goal here. And you mentioned there about the meeting with Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Commission president, as well. They kind of suggested that they might be pushing towards zero tariffs in the future. But from that conversation and what we learned from it, do you think that the idea of a trade war, the threats of a trade war, is just a negotiating tactic from Donald Trump? It's not that he's actually going to really follow through on it.
I've always thought it's a negotiating tactic. You know, I've said on your show and CNN all the time that you have to understand Donald Trump. You have to understand his book, The Art of the Deal. He is a negotiator. He always opens with his strongest hand and negotiates from there. I thought he got a good deal out of Europe because he put these 20% auto tariffs on the table. And as you know, the Germans couldn't live with that. That would really dent their economy. They came to the negotiating table. We got a better deal that I think will benefit both countries.
But it may not just be Cohen's word at issue here. Michael Cohen says there were several other people, witnesses, in the room when Donald Trump was informed of the Russians' offer. Let's bring in CNN's legal analyst, Renato Mariotti, to help us break all of this down. Renato, as a former U.S. federal prosecutor, joins us now. Great to see you. Well, let's talk about this meeting that everyone's talking about, the 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. Why does what Michael Cohen know about that meeting matter to the whole of the special prosecutor probe into collusion and possible obstruction?
Well, what Michael Cohen appears to be prepared to say is that Donald Trump himself was aware of the meeting. And I think just as importantly, and we aren't focusing maybe as much on this, he knows exactly what Mr. Trump was told about the meeting. He also knows what questions, if any, Trump asked about the meeting, and knows exactly, you know, what Trump and his son and the others in that meeting expected to get out of the deal with the Russians.
Right. One extraordinary photograph that emerged today, Renato, as well. I want to bring this up for our viewers. This is a Washington airport, at an airport gate. And in this image on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the special prosecutor, Robert Mueller. And on the right, you can see Donald Trump's first son, Donald Trump Jr., Don Jr. there as well. Now, of course, these two have no doubt got quite a lot to discuss with regards to possible collusion and the ongoing probe as well. Donald Trump and the whole of the Trump team seem to be very keen on continuing to discredit the special prosecutor at the moment. Do you think that that's because Donald Trump, the president, is gearing up to fire Mueller, or because he's increasingly fearful of him?
Well, I think certainly he's concerned about him. And one thing to remember in the United States is that often where this ends up is impeachment proceedings, which are essentially, it's a type of trial that's conducted in the United States Congress. So public opinion matters. The opinion of politicians that are going to be potential jurors matters. So anything he can do to discredit the prosecutor in terms of public opinion could be helpful to the president. And I will say that when I investigated and prosecuted criminal defendants, it was not uncommon for them to attack the prosecution. What's different here, of course, unfortunately, is that this man is the president of the United States, and he's willing to do that, which means that he has more of a microphone.
He certainly does. Renato Mariotti, always good to talk to you. We appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed. Now, the dust has barely settled from Donald Trump's first summit with Vladimir Putin of Russia, which was widely criticized by politicians in Washington. But now, plans may be in the works for a summit part 2. Russia's president says he's ready for more talks under what he calls the necessary conditions. Let's go live to Matthew Chance in Moscow for all the details on this. So, Matthew, as things stand right now, when and where might these two come back together again?
Well, the date has not been set, and Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has left things purposely vague.
Well, joining me now on the phone is Gulnar Aybet, a senior advisor to the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Gulnar, thank you so much for being with us on the line. We understand now that Pastor Brunson, Andrew Brunson, he is currently on trial. As I just said, he's under house arrest at the moment, but there has been no release. Has Turkey reneged on a deal made with the United States to ensure the release of this man?
First of all, I mean, there's been a working group that was established to address and resolve the outstanding legal issues.
And finally, on this Friday edition of the show, congratulations are in order for a 64-year-old Bulgarian man named Yane Petkov. He has set a world record by swimming 3.3 kilometers. No great feat, you might think, but he did it tied up in a sack. Yes, tied up swimming is apparently a recognized thing, and you can even set a world record for doing it. Well, who knew? Petkov, who is a lifeguard when he's not swimming around in a sack, broke the record held by a man from India who had swam 3 kilometers with his hands and feet bound, but not while in a sack. Apparently, the sack part of it does not affect whether or not you get the record, which of course begs the question, why? Why do it? But anyway, many congratulations to him. Thank you also for watching tonight. I'm Hannah Vaughan-Jones in London for you. Stay with us here on CNS. Quest Means Business is, of course, coming up next.